Welcome to the Giggles, the Weep, and the Wham Show. And I am your host, Tonya Hofmann. And I'm so excited to introduce to you our Giggle, Weep, and Wham star today, Miss Jennifer Jones. Hey, Jennifer.
How's it going? I love your title already.
I know, sometimes we have these funny things that just pop into our heads in the middle of the night. And because the other ones, everything that I've always done has always been about really education. And I'm like, people are missing out on just how crazy our lives are. And I wanted to do a show about our lives, right?
I love it. I love it.
And you had such a huge life already. And, you're one of the most amazing people that I know, not only through your story, but what you do nowadays. And so first we want to do the giggle. So I personally have had so many OMG moments that I can't even name them all. Like, Tonya, did you really just say that? Or I can't believe you just did that in front of an entire audience or whatever. So is there something that's happened to you that you're like, really, Jennifer, can you believe it?
Okay. So we have entrepreneurs in the audience, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a speaker, and this is kind of adult. This is going to be like PG-13 if you can get it. So I'm sitting there and I'm on stage, and I have the handheld mic in my hand, and I'm talking, and the battery's going low. And so I started off the whole talk with, I love to hold a mic. Okay, can you picture the handheld mic?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I love batteries. Like, I don't leave anywhere without a mic and batteries. And it totally went to the rated R version of what I meant with that. And it was crazy. So I was there for the whole weekend, and everybody would come up to me and say, hey, batteries. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. But it was really, really cool because they were really getting a different gist of what I was saying, but it was kind of fun.
Right. A lot of times we'll say something that we aren't expecting it to come out the way everyone else seems to take it. And you're like, you don't even know how to deal with it sometimes.
I had to flow with that one. There was nothing I could do. And I'm single. So I'm like, hey, I'm single. I need batteries and a mic. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
And, but you're rememberable. And I think that's the whole part of just letting things go. It just happens.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
Now, we're about to go into our weep section. And I know your story. I saw you it was a little event that we were both at. It was the first time I met you, and I heard your story on stage. And I don't get emotional very often. And I grabbed a tissue box. And I think it was your first time to ever say anything in front of like a whole audience. So I think everyone was just in the moment. Can you share with us your story?
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I love how you preface it, because it will need a little bit of a Kleenex. And Kleenex and batteries apparently follow me everywhere. So I do share this now. And I do share it because I'm honoring my life and my past. So I was married at 19, and I came from an alcoholic home. So what do? You marry an alcoholic, because that's what you know. And he was a great man, just unfortunately had the disease of alcoholism. After 10 years, I had two beautiful children, Nicholas and Cherie, and I asked for a divorce, and it did not go well at all. And it was about 6 months of complete hell. And he ended up kidnapping the children and myself at gunpoint, and he held me hostage in our home, and he held me at gunpoint for an hour, and then he let me go because I had to get to work. I had a bunch of phone calls coming in, and so I went straight to the police, and this started an 11-hour hostage standoff, and it did not end well. And I was 29 at the time. I was actually sitting a couple houses over, and luckily they were nurses that owned the house, a husband and wife together. And the chief came on the scene in the 11th hour and gave a 10-minute ultimatum. And from my recollection, at 10 minutes, 3 shots were fired. And the nurses ended up giving me a pill, which I believe now was a Valium. And they finally came over and told me that he actually shot my children and himself, and no one survived. I was 29. Yeah. I mean, I was 29 at the time. This happened a long time ago. And it threw me for a loop, as you can imagine. It was the worst day. I'm actually writing a book now, so I'm reliving all of this all over again, and it's throwing me a loop. But my business is dedicated to my kids. Like, I would not be here today if I did not have them. And many, as you can imagine, many tears have been shed. And I didn't even want to live, of course. And I just kept thinking that there was no way that I could put my parents through the pain that I'm in, because it was so horrific.
Wow.
Yeah. So I honor my kids, Nick and Cherie. My business name is Diamond Life, and that's their birthstone. So that's really exciting. So they're actually here with me every time I share their story.
Nice.
And my story, they're here. So I really appreciate you giving me the space to bring them on board.
And I think a lot of people need to hear it, because I'm sure there's so many people living a life that they are pretending to have, right? Do you feel like that at that point you were pretending to have like a perfect life until it all kind of unraveled?
You are so hitting the nail on the head for sure. Like, we were the perfect family from the outside. I owned a business. He had a business. We had a Jaguar, a convertible, a beautiful home, a pool. You know, we had the parties every weekend. Everybody thought everything was perfect. And I thought everything was perfect for so long. Even though I started going to Al-Anon, I had help and I knew things were an issue, but I didn't know how bad they really were, because you just start living that life and living that lie, and you lose yourself completely.
Yeah.
And I completely lost myself. And then I was just a mom to my kids and just finding joy wherever I could find joy. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. All of a sudden, it got so tight around my throat. And it was just like, oh my God, I had to go get to therapy right away. I joined a church group. I started reaching out. It was horrible. And that's when I said, I just can't even do this anymore. I just had to ask for divorce. And I was scared. I was just paralyzed with fear, of course. And we don't even realize how much fear we're in, like you said, right? We don't even realize the life that from the outside looking in. And so that's what I'm here for, is to share that you can survive.
Yes. Because I think, we all go through, and obviously everyone, it's not like you have to go through something that traumatic. Hopefully you never go through anything that traumatic.
No. You don't want me in that group, let me tell you.
Right? I mean, even at 29, I don't know what it is about 29, I had cancer, and I tell people, like, that's nothing compared to the things I've heard people go through.
Well, it's still like, that's, and that's what I say, is like, don't compare. Yeah, there's no comparing. We totally, all of us have our own stuff and our own crap, and it makes us who we are today, right?
Totally. And I think too, a lot of times we look at people and we put everyone on this perfect picture frame. And I think that's one of the issues with social media, is that we get glimpses of what people show us, not the reality of their life, And so people look all polished and amazing, and you start peeling away those layers and you start seeing they're just real humans. We're all just humans trying to go through life and be happy.
Yeah, absolutely right. In fact, I mean, here we are sitting on this call, giggling and having our weeping time. But I can tell you, I mean, I'm trying to live such an authentic life right now, which is very difficult, because that means being vulnerable. And I don't know about you, but I got the perfectionism little right? And so to admit my mistakes and my failures and my wrongdoings is very difficult, but that's what I'm doing. And I tell you, I went home from work yesterday and I cried for about 2.5 hours. And I was just literally sitting and feeling all of my feelings. And it was amazing. And I feel better today for sure. But I mean, to be honest, I'm still kind of in that funk place. So, others might see and say, hey, you're amazing, everything's great. But you know what? We're, like you said, we're human. And I still get in that funk. And to honor myself and to love myself enough to allow me not to be perfect is huge.
Oh yeah. I had to get over the perfection issues, and you got to be, the perfect little girl, because I was the goodest good girl that you could possibly be good to, and it's like, how much gooder can you get? I don't know. And after a while, you're like, I'm exhausted.
You're so right, right? There's no way we can be. It's so exhausting. And then we get sick. We get, divorced, and we get crunchy and mad, and right?
And I think there is a lot to it, that especially for women, I think we come through different points in our lives. I'm in my 50s now, and which still sounds so weird. I'm like, that's my grandmother, not me. What? When did I get so old? And then this morning I'm trying to move my body more. So in the mornings I turn on some 80s music, of course, and I just sit and dance and just build up, some exercise, I'm getting ready and stuff. And it's great exercise, but oh my gosh, my knees hurt now. It's kind of the reality part.
It's so, so true. I'm 55 and I started an amazing exercise program last year, and I hate exercise, never been one to like it. I would dance with you rather than exercise, for sure. And all the other girls are like doing so much more that are younger. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting up straight. I don't bend that way anymore. My knees yell at me when I go down the stairs. It's like, oh my gosh. And then, okay, have you noticed this? My skin's different.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Right?
I'm like, I saw my mom's, like the little wings that happen. I'm like, that's not going to happen to me. And I'm like, oh, it's happening. Oh my gosh.
It's so hysterical. And to be able to love ourselves through all of that is huge, right? It's really huge. But this is so great to be able to talk to somebody else and to be authentic and share that and then love ourselves through it,
Yeah. I remember at 38, I hired my first coach, and it was actually supposed to be a goal setting coach. He wasn't. He was a life coach who pretended to be a goal setting coach. But he was brilliant. And one of the hardest things I've ever done is to look at a mirror into my eyes and tell myself that I'm fabulous. And the first time I did it, this is what I literally was like looking, I'm like, okay, Tonya, you're pretty good. I couldn't say it. And I was like, why is that so hard? And what was amazing is that my kids, I got them, of course, after they stopped giggling and being silly, they could say it and they could believe it. And I think that's, if we train our whole generation, right, to grow up with this belief that they are amazing, because everyone is amazing. I have never met anyone, even they're amazing bad, they're still amazing.
Exactly, right? We're amazing just because we're here. We don't have to do anything.
Exactly. We all have different, abilities. So tell us a little bit of our wham. So our wham is your life lesson. What is something that you learned that if you could look back at yourself at 18, you would have said, Jennifer, this is what I should do.
That's awesome. So like you said, we come through cycles, right, in our life. And I think they're all a little bit different. And I've never felt growing up and, in high school and all of that, I never really felt in place. I always felt out of place. I never really felt like I fit in. And there was, right? I mean, I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel the same way because that's why we become entrepreneurs, right? But I was in a group class and it was talking about your feelings back in 1980, right? Which never happened. And I felt so amazing that day. And then people started talking to me differently. And I was sharing, I was coming from an alcoholic home and high school was pretty tough. And I felt like I belonged, like my feelings mattered. So that was one lesson. I didn't do too much with that for a long time. But after my kids passed, I was in a grief group, and there was a couple that had been just sobbing and sobbing every week. And their son had passed. There was another woman who handled her grief with such grace. And then I found out that the couple's son passed 5 years earlier. And I literally said, there is no way that I can deal with this pain for like that every week for 5 years. And I looked at the other woman who was handling her grief with grace, and I literally made a decision. Like I said that day, I am here for a reason. I know it. I know I have a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. I know I survived. I know I'm here, and I'm going to make a difference in this lifetime. And I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just knew. So if we ever make a decision, that is huge, because that saved my life, and it has propelled me forward and given me a drive to make a difference. I had no idea that it was going to turn out to be a business and, coaching and helping women with their money or whatever. I don't even know if this is the end game, right? I don't even know what it is. But making a decision to live your life on purpose and authentic was huge. It's taken me lots of layers, like you said, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for most people is realizing that they themselves is what people want. I know it was hard because I'm like, I'm just little Tanya. Why would someone want me? I need to be Susan. I need to be, Joyce. I need to be these amazing women that I see. And then realize that once I just, because again, it's so hard to try to pretend you're somebody else. And once you left that and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm just going to be me. And then people are like flocking to you and like really want to know who you are. It was like such an eye opening to tell people my stories. And I'm like, why would someone want to know all those details? And that's horrible stuff. No one wants, but then suddenly I've become just relatable that, I don't have this facade anymore.
Exactly. And now we can connect with your heart. And then it makes us feel like we have a place and we belong, and it's okay. Exactly. Right? Because we're not perfect. So when we find somebody authentic like yourself, that's just being you, that's trying to help. And you're actually pretty funny too, Tonya. Did you know that? You're actually pretty funny. Like, I love your energy. And so when we do that with someone and we can share that with people, that's what life's all about. We all just want to be loved, right? Exactly. We all just want to be loved and accepted and have joy in our life. So we can't do that if we're trying to pretend like we're someone else or to pretend like our life is perfect. Because I don't care who you are, life ain't perfect.
Well, and I love that you just said that, because one of the biggest myths, I think, is that everyone has to like us. And if we look at comedy, there's not one comic that everyone loves, right? And so even my humor, how goofy it is, it really irritates some people. And that's fine, because they're just not my peeps. The people that gravitate to me are like, Tanya's so goofy, I like her. Those are my peeps.
Exactly. And we don't all have to that's why we're all so great, because someone is going to resonate with us. Yes. And I know my story's crazy and unfathomable, but we all have stuff in our life. And if we can be resilient, because women, we go through a lot, and men are supposed to be such heroes and hold us up and be so strong. And, they're not perfect either. We're not perfect. We need to have a soft place for all of us to fall. And if we can be that for each other, how amazing would this world be if we were all compassionate enough to be able to let somebody come and say, hey, I can be your pillow. I can be your soft place for a bit. How you doing? Doesn't that just give you chills? I would just so love that.
Oh, yeah. I think it's important. So I really want people to connect with you, and obviously you want to follow Jennifer and get to know her and just, absorb her amazingness. But she's a brilliant woman, and she is an incredible coach and helps people with their money. Just like, hello, don't you want to know her just already? So how do they find out more info about you, Jennifer?
Best place is just go to my website, Jennifer, Jennifer, Jost.com. And that tells you about the speaking, the coaching, and also a financial advisor. So you can just pick a box, click something, and you can always set an appointment with me. I do 30 minutes complimentary and see if we're a good fit and see if I can help. And if you have a